can of worms. If we make it just first come, first serve this year, and then next year go to a draw, what is y'all's reason for not doing a draw right off the bat? Because you want more people to be able to come in and see it, or what is your reasoning?
I guess to gauge that demand on that site, because, you know, with it being open now on an opportunistic basis, we've had some use, but, you know, we were just wanting to take this year to one, since it's only one pond of several that we're gonna hunt, just have it as a first come, first serve, see what that demand is, and then next year we should have more ponds, and if that demand shows a need to, and we'll have stake positions. It won't be where anybody can go anywhere. There'll be stake positions.
So how many opportunities will be in that one pond? Do you know?
I don't know. Haven't done all the staking of those spots yet.
Well, John, with all due respect, I think the demand is there, and I think we're naive to think that we wouldn't have a strong demand there. With the least amount of opportunities that we have in East Tennessee, the demand's going to be very strong, don't you? I mean,
if it's a quality hunt, which we hope it is, then there'll probably be quite a bit of demand.
But I think regardless, hunters in East Tennessee would
they'll come if the buddies are killing birds.
We got ducks.
John, I gotta agree with the chair. I guess I would ask, at least I hope it's appropriate, just for Region 4 to revisit that before we formally do anything.
We'll do that.
There's some nuts that'll drive to Arkansas. I don't know who they are, but you know, all kidding aside, it's having toured it. Y'all have done a phenomenal job, and it is a phenomenal setup. I think it's going to be the diamond, if you will, of East Tennessee, and I am genuinely cautious. I think as the chairman is saying, we're going to have more people wanting to hunt that, and I'm afraid it's going to cause some conflict. And so if you all would just revisit it, have a little more discussion on it, I would appreciate it.
We'll do that.
Mr. Chairman, real quick, and I probably screwed up here. We're talking about hunting seasons, limits, miscellaneous regs, and a few months back, Darrell, we talked about what are we going to do about quail, and you're hiring folks, so thank you if that's going to be a step in the right direction. Any feel for when there might be a report or some feedback from staff? Because I know you all been wrestling with it a fair amount.
Yes, last year at this time, quail was probably one of the most important topics we talked about during the 2012 season, and there was discussions we had with the commission, and the commission specifically asked us to look into solving the quail problem, which nobody has ever done, and we took it to heart. And I will tell you that we have, outside of wild hogs, I believe quail has been our #1 issue within the wildlife division, trying to figure out what we need to do. Just within the last year, we've attended numerous meetings. I myself have attended multiple NBCI meaning the National Bob White Conservation Initiative, attended their meetings at the national level, once I believe in South Carolina and then most recently in Washington, D.C., and sat in on their management boards, because what we would like to do is approach NBCI with Tennessee's concerns. Tennessee's main concern with the management of quail and trying to follow their prescription on how to fix the quail problem, there's this main issue of scale. And when you do not reach, or when you cannot attain the appropriate level of habitat that they're calling for, what other options are there? And so we've been working with them, trying to seek advice from them, get them to address those states or those areas where we can't put in the quality quail habitat that we need. And most recently, they had a steering committee meeting in Knoxville, Tennessee, and we took a large contingency of our biologists there to talk to the steering committee and let them know what our concerns were. and we're working with them. We're going to come up with a recommendation that they're going to consider to put in the national plan that will address some of the issues that we have in Tennessee. I cannot go into much detail, but to give you an idea of some of the things we're looking at, we're going to be meeting, I believe, in two weeks to discuss a concept which is very novel. It's never been tried before, and we don't know any of the details. But the thing with quail management and trying to put in quail habitat, everything that's been done thus far, pretty much unsuccessfully on the landscape level. Obviously, on a smaller scale, we can see impact. But we're talking a few thousand acres here or there. We've never seen landscape change regarding quail habitat. And one of the concepts that we're going to entertain is trying to introduce a new concept in which we steer away from money-based incentives. As most folks know, anything that's financially based is probably not a long-term solution, simply because the money's not always going to be there, and certain things affect that financial situation. When we pay landowners to put in good habitat, if that money disappears, the habitat disappears. Also, if crop prices go up, if someone can make more money doing something else, the habitat comes out faster than we can put it in. And so there's no permanency on the landscape regarding quail habitat. And so a concept we're going to explore, and we don't have any details. Hopefully at the next commission we will have more details. But to try to develop a system in which we can offer hunting-based incentives as opposed to financial incentives. So if we get landowners to put in good quality habitat that meets criteria that we set out and say this is good wildlife habitat, then there's a possibility where we can offer additional hunting incentives. And we'll lay that out once we get more details. Right now we don't have any details for it.
Is it, just as a checkpoint, unless some hiccup comes up, do you think that it's reasonable to expect a report, say, within the next couple of commission meetings?
We can discuss more. Nothing, what we are envisioning, nothing could take place until next year. Simply because we envision it would probably involve a rule change. It would probably involve the development of a proclamation. And nothing would even be, we could discuss it within a couple of commission meetings because we'd have a much better idea. And then we could literally float the idea by you. And
that's really all I'm looking for.
Okay, yes.
We talked about whatever we do, you've made clear we're going to have to do something different, and that may mean a paradigm shift. At the same time, we also said, we've been discussing this for years, let's begin to pick a path. And if you could give us an update
Yes.
on that path, even conceptually, in the next couple of meetings, I think that would be.
I think we'll be prepared to do it. Our first meeting, I believe, is May 7th. So shortly thereafter, we'll be able to give you a much better idea of what our thinking is regarding this program.
Thank you, Darryl. I really appreciate it.
At this point in time, we're going to continue and just finish out the big game proclamation. We have two more topics to discuss. I'm going to introduce Chris Hunter, who is our black bear and wild turkey coordinator, and then he will round it out with the National Wildlife Refuge proclamation, and then introduce Steve Nifong for Manner and Means, and then we'll be done with our recommendations.
Thank you, Darryl. Just as a quick side note to Chuck Yost, don't feel bad, I had Chinese for lunch. So, my name is Chris Hunter, as Darryl said. Commissioners that I have not been able to meet yet, I just wanted to let you know that I'm the black bear, wild turkey, fur bear, and animal damage control coordinator with the TWRA. Me and Chuck came on about the same time. We've been here about a year and a half with the programs. Start out by talking about black bear in Tennessee. A quick overview of the program. Our population currently is at an all-time high. Seems like every year that we run the population reconstruction, we're hitting an all-time high with the black bear population. 3 of the last 5 years, we have seen record harvest with the black bear program. The agency is starting to implement a Bear-Wise program. This program was started with Region 4. They were instrumental in getting this program off the ground. And basically, it gives the general public information on black bear, bear habits, and ways to minimize bear-human conflicts. We're also working on a black bear management plan currently. We're making good progress with the black bear management plan. And we hope to have a document within the next year or so, hopefully, that we can get out and make some management decisions with our program. In the red, you'll see the Unaka Mountain area. This is the area that most bear biologists consider the recent historical range, I guess would be the best way to put that. If you go back to the 1800s, of course, we had black bear throughout the state of Tennessee. But this has been our source population for the last several decades. We also have an expanding black bear population on the Cumberland Plateau, especially around the Big South Fork region. And Dan Gibbs later on will be giving a presentation on some DNA evidence of population status that we've obtained from this area. And also have an area between these two locations which have seen frequent transient sightings over the last several decades. And in the blue, we have a new area, I will call that, of where bear are starting to show up and the transients are becoming more common in that location. Keeping track of the numbers, if you'll have a look at the graph, this is a bait station index. The agency has been running bait stations since approximately 1981. The bar graph shows the harvest, the line graph shows the bait station index. In 2011 was the last year that we run the bait stations. It indicated an all-time high in the index of 84%. And essentially what this is telling us is that we have a very healthy black bear population. Once you hit 80%, you're at saturation with the population, and it does not seem that hunting is causing any issues with the population at all. Population is still growing, we feel. Population reconstruction. Again, the bar graph is the harvest, the line graph is the reconstructed population. And how is this derived? We have a program where you can input harvest and also age data of the bears. We collect teeth from the harvested bears, send them off to a lab, and we get an age information back on the black bear that we send off. We put this into a program and it gives us a reconstructed population estimate. One thing to keep in mind is this is most likely a minimum population estimate because the teeth that are sent off are derived from harvest. It's harvest-derived mortality. So most likely 4,000 or 4,500 is probably on the low end of the black bear in those 12 counties that we're hunting. The season in review was the fourth highest harvest on record. It was a decrease from the year before. In 2011, we harvested 589 black bear. In 2011, we believe that there was probably a mass failure, which caused the bears to move off the sanctuaries, made it easier for hunters to target those bears. Tennessee's 5-year average harvest is now 463. 88% of the harvest was from gun hunters, 11% from archery, and 1% muzzleloader. And 65% of all the harvest was on private lands. And another quick graphical view of the black bear harvest with a trend line. And we really feel that even though we've increased opportunities by adding days, we're hunting earlier in the season, we still feel that this population is probably growing still because we're still seeing that trend on the increase in the harvest. We have not seen that leveling off like we have seen with the wild turkey that we can talk about a little bit later. The black bear recommendations, Section 2, Part A. What we're looking to do here is just add some consistency for Monroe and Polk. The 12 counties, there was a hunt that was established for October 28th through November 1, and we still hope to have that hunt for the 10 counties aside from Monroe and Polk, but we want to pull them out, have their own date of November 4 through 8 with an additional 3 hunts on top of that. And what we're looking to do here is be consistent with the South Cherokee, since that is where the South Cherokee occurs in Monroe and Polk counties. So we're just trying to add some good consistency there. Same Part A. Just a minor adjustment in the dates from November 21 through 24, moving that to November 23 through 26. and to help prevent any unnecessary conflict with the bear dog hunters that will begin hunting just after that, and also prevent any unnecessary conflict with deer hunters during the most busiest times of the deer season. And Section 2, Part B, Special Bear Hunting Regulations. We are recommending to move Parts 3 and 4, which have to do with checking bear in, to manner and means, which is under the jurisdiction of law enforcement. So we're just wanting to move that out of the big game proclamation over to manner and means. And just a graphical look of the black bear hunt dates and the dog training dates in red and blue. Just a quick overview of what we will be doing for the season. And that will conclude the black bear recommendations. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to take those at this time.
I'm asking this at the wrong time, but I have had some requests, and I should have asked this with the WMA, but I wasn't thinking bears, so you started talking about but the bear preserves in the North Cherokee, there's been some requests by squirrel hunters to be able to hunt their dogs for squirrels, and I'd just like to have that addressed or discussed.
At this time, I would like to defer to Dan Gibbs of Region 4, please.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Millen, that question comes up occasionally, and it goes back to the function of the bear reserves. They're designed for the bears to have a place of rest during the bear seasons where they're not harassed, and by allowing dogs that are non-pointing breeds, such as squirrel dogs, they will get in there, they'll run the bears, push them out of the bear reserve, and they don't have the protection that the reserve is designed for. So that's why we don't allow non-pointing breed dogs in the reserves during bear seasons.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. There was some discussion last year. I received a phone call as far as some communications with the U.S. Department of Forestry as far as keeping some gates open there in Cocke County. Has that been addressed for this year, or has that been something that's been brought to the attention of the agency, sir?
It has. Would you like to address that also, Dan, since you're there?
We've had a meeting with the Forest Service to discuss the gates, and what it comes down to, it's a financial issue with them and also manpower and timing. Their goal each year is to close their roads by the 15th of December. If that happens to fall on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, then they'll push it to the following Monday.
Yes, sir.
And we talked with them. They're not very open to doing a lot, but they are open to talk some more. And I think that's where I should leave it at this point. But we are in the process of working on the management plan, as Chris said, and throughout that process, we're going to be continuing to talk about our hunt strategies, our timing of our hunts, you know, when you have your hunts, and things like that. So we might be able to address it through our management plan in the future just by moving our hunt dates around. So there's a lot of opportunity there to deal with that issue. But for this year, that recommendation, it's going to put about 8 days at the end that the roads, some gates will be closed during the bear season, just like it was this past year.
Where would that affect, sir? Would that be in the top right-hand slide? Is that the December the 2nd through the 15th and the 31st to the 3rd? Am I looking at that correctly?
I was looking at that slide, and I think there's a typo, because if you look at the second row to the left, you have the November 29th to December 3rd. The dog season opens the 29th, but that should be running through, I believe, the 28th or 23rd. That should be December 23rd. That's the problem. The 2 is dropped off there. So that's the season. It should be November 29th to December 23rd. In the last 8 days, they'll begin closing the roads. I believe it's going to be the 16th of December, if I'm not mistaken. And we have traditionally, the bear season, that late season, is always opened the Thursday closest to December 1st, unless that day was Thanksgiving. And this year, the Thursday closest to December 1st would be Thanksgiving Day. So traditionally, that hunt day would have been moved all the way back to December 5th. Had we done that, then we would have had over 2 weeks of closure. So instead of going with that December 5th date, we went with the 29th, which is going to be the day after Thanksgiving, to try to alleviate and cut down at least the number of days it'll be closed by half by
Well,
using that traditional date.
I appreciate your efforts. I guess, is there anything that we can do as far as on a proactive side, as far as giving the heads up that the gates are closing so that we don't have a breakdown in communication between the hunters and the forestry department as far as when the gates are going to be open and closed? Is there
They
anything?
announce them in August, don't they?
Yeah, the Forest Service announces it. They'll announce that in August.
Well, that doesn't
And-
necessarily mean that they're paying attention to
Well,
it.
we can put that on our website and put in a news release, make sure it gets put in there, but most of them know they're gonna be closed.
Okay, well,
So,
great.
but we can certainly, make sure we try to get
Well,
that
if
in
they're
there.
on the website, then I think that's all you can ask.
Last year, they announced it late August, early September, the Forest Service did.
Yes, sir.
And then they re-announced it, early December, kind of as a reminder.
Okay.
And we picked that up and put it in our news releases last year too, trying to get that word
Well,
out.
thanks. Sounds like you've done a great job with it, so thank you for your time.
Mr. Chairman, John or Dan, either one, just real quick. I was going through the book, the part in red, just going through the justification. The September 28th through October 25th, it says archery only, no dogs. But then you go to the next one, we really have 4 counties there that there is an overlap. We say archery only, but in fact, from September 30th to October 2nd, we're gonna allow dogs, and it's gun, muzzleloader, and archery. And some of our justification was trying to keep, I guess, hunts from occurring in that time period.
Okay, what that second hunt that Commissioner Cannon is talking about on the top row, September 30th to October 7th, that is the hunt that we've had for many, many years that is going to be in Blount, Sevier, Cock County, south of Interstate 40, and a very small portion of Jefferson County.
Yes, sir.
And that hunt is designed to deal with the bears that are coming off the park during that time of year. All this is these areas surround the Smoky Mountains National Park. And you're correct, it kind of falls right smack in the middle of that archery hunt that we have.
Yes, sir.
But just to, I mean, the people that can hunt there during that 7-day period, they can also utilize dogs for hunting. And then the archery hunting is also open as well.
But we've been doing this for years.
Yes, sir.
In those 4 counties.
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
Yes,
I
sir.
appreciate it, sir.
All right. Any other questions on black bear? Move on to talk turkey just for a minute. A quick overview of wild turkey in Tennessee. Our population status, again, is at an all-time high. We've been at 300,000 plus on our population estimate for the last decade. The harvest has been at 30,000 plus for the last decade. We make opportunity adjustments in the fall, either up or down, based on the trend of the harvest, of how well each one of those counties are doing. And as Darrell mentioned earlier, we have the University of Georgia study that is just getting ready to wrap up. We're getting ready to get some information on that, and hopefully we can understand what has happened in some of the other states where the turkey has hit a decline, and hopefully be able to head that off in Tennessee if it's something, information that we can use to stop that from happening if it ever would here. But most importantly, hunters are very satisfied. Darrell talked about this earlier also, a greater than 90% satisfaction rate for the last decade. Just a quick graphical look at a few things with the turkey program. Number of successful hunters is running about 20 to 25,000 hunters are actually successful. That's about 1 out of every 5, 1 out of every 6 hunters actually are able to harvest a turkey during any given year. Harvest per successful hunter, we're looking at about 1.5 birds per hunter for the last decade or so. Even in the 1990s, it was about 1.25 birds per hunter, so that really has not changed that much. And this is a graph that my supervisor, Gray Anderson, says helps him to sleep well at night. So I wanted to make sure that I got this up on the screen for him today. So what we're looking at here is the Jake to adult ratio, but really the line graph is for the adult birds. So the last 10 years, we have been averaging between 80 and 90% adult birds. And with a healthy population, this is a good thing. If it was a population that was of a concern, you might say, well, the recruitment is not there. You're harvesting older birds. That's not good. But with a very healthy population, 300,000 plus animals, and average harvest of over 30,000, what we're thinking is going on is hunters are just being more selective in their harvest. They can kill a jake or a gobbler. They're waiting on that gobbler and taking that adult bird. So. And the percent hunters by season bag, in the 90s, about 75% or a little bit more were harvesting one bird, and that's declined somewhat as the turkey population has increased. It's now about 65% are harvesting one, and 35% or so are harvesting two or more. And just a quick look at the spring harvest history. And the big thing to note here, and I will talk about it in just a few minutes on another slide that shows a trend, but the big thing to note is the state total. You see how it's almost exponential growth, and it's kind of leveled off over the past 8 to 10 years. And that's what populations do, and that's what's expected. And we'll talk about that a little more in just a minute. The fall harvest history, we're only going back to 1998 on the fall harvest because that's when we began to hunt turkey in the fall. Started out with a limited quota hunt in areas where there were depredation issues, and then we became more liberal as time went on. So if you'll look at the annual state harvest, the fall state harvest, for 2011, 2012, you will see that it went up about 1,000 birds from 2010. And what we feel happened here is we actually moved the season up from December to October, and we feel that more hunters are taking advantage of that opportunity because it is in October. And this is a slide I was referring to a little earlier, the annual harvest history from 1990 to the present, and the trend line. The trend line shows exponential growth in the harvest, then you hit a peak, and this is what has happened in a lot of other states in the southeast. And what we're trying to understand is why did that population in, say, Arkansas grow so fast, hit that peak, and then decline almost as fast as it went up? That's what we're trying to learn from this southeastern study, to gain some information from that and hopefully use that in Tennessee. But right now, we're in good shape in Tennessee. We feel the harvest has leveled off, and we think that the harvest will kind of meander up and down that trend line for a long time to come, or at least that's our hope anyway.
Why do you think the harvest took such a dip over that year or two? You think that's weather related? The population didn't appear to dip.
In 2007, 2008, that range? Okay. It really, it's, I wouldn't consider that a major concern because, yeah, we dipped for a year or two, but I think there was a few things going on there. We had some flooding issues. There are certain areas of the state that we have some concern about, and on the recommendations, we're going to talk about that. But the harvest only stayed down for a couple of years and then went back up. As long as it kind of makes its way and revolves around that trend line, then I think we're okay. It's when we hit that decline for year after year after year and it never goes back up. That's when we would have a concern, and we would hopefully look at doing some things with the harvest if we needed to. But as of right now, I think we're in good shape. Postseason highlights: third highest spring turkey harvest on record, and the third highest fall turkey harvest on record. And the recommendations, section 4D, fall recommendations, just making opportunity adjustments based on the county. Some counties we would like to increase the bag limit for that particular county. If it shows a trend of a harvest that is doing really well and increasing, we're going to add a couple of birds per county or so, and then maybe even bring in a few counties like Ray and Roan that is showing some increase in the harvest. And then those counties like Giles, Lawrence, Lincoln, and Wayne on the Alabama line in Region 2, where we do see some concern. We're not exactly sure what's going on there, so the best thing we can do is reduce the amount of birds that are being harvested in those counties and just see over time if that makes any difference, unless we can do some type of research. But those are the few counties that we have concerns on, so we're going to just adjust those opportunities down. That's our recommendation. And spring turkey season dates and bag limits, we're recommending no changes to those. And that concludes the wild turkey recommendations. Be glad to take any questions you may have.
There's no more questions.
No question?
Thank you.
Okay. I'll wrap up with the National Wildlife Refuge Proclamation, sections 2, 3, and 4. The National Wildlife Refuge would like to add a youth-only spring turkey hunt for Chickasaw Lower Hatchie, reduce the deer gun quota on Duck River Bottoms unit of Tennessee National Wildlife Refuge from 125 to 75, and eliminate gun deer hunt on the Tennessee National Wildlife Refuge. And essentially, these are federal lands. They make their own decisions, and we're just proclamating for them. We can have a discussion, but essentially these are federal lands, and they can pretty much make the decisions that need to be made on those national wildlife refuges. Well, add opportunity for the first one, youth-only hunt, to add opportunity. And the elimination of the gun deer hunt, it was low participation because it coincides with the statewide deer muzzleloader hunt. Had very low participation. So that was what was justified. Any other questions? All right, at this time, I would like to introduce Steve Nifong, Assistant Chief of the, oh, I'm sorry. You had a question?
Before you leave that, on Big South Fork,
Yes, sir.
sorry, I'm Mr. Hogg, I guess, but we're requiring a permit now for the taking of hogs at the request of the feds. Is that correct?
It was already required. It is just more of a language
change.
cleanup.
Thank you.
They just wanted us to clean the language up.
Thank you, sir.
The permit was already required. So, Steve Nifong, Assistant Chief of Boating and Law Enforcement.
Good afternoon, Commission. The recommendations on the manner and means are relatively limited. It includes some house cleaning, and it does include the move for the big game tagging or check-in procedures into manner and means from the big game proclamation. Made some minor changes in the legal hunting devices. We changed the wording from air rifles to air guns to reflect pistols, air pistols also being legal for hunting small game. We maximized the caliber on these air guns at 25 caliber. When we put these in effect years ago, they were designed for hunting small game. There are large bore air guns out there very capable of taking deer or bear that we do not feel appropriate for the small game hunting. So we put the caliber maximization at 25 caliber for the air guns. Then we removed nutria from the list of fur bearers because they are already covered in the proclamation for non-protected wildlife. Under prohibited acts, we added tracer ammunition. I had a question come in this year about the use of it. There was a gentleman that thought it'd be good for to be able to see where his child was shooting, missing the deer or whatever. Problem with tracer, in periods of drought or whatever, you can start fires with it. Right now, it probably was illegal because the majority of it is full metal jacketed, but just in case someone had a round out there that wasn't FMJ, we add that as a prohibited use. We've made some minor changes in the language that we came to you back in February on for the big game check-in. I spent 5 weeks at our in-services this year, talking with our officers and trying to build them in on the new procedures and whatever. And they had a couple pretty good recommendations that we've included in this. We wish it for it to say, mission will go with us, is big game animals shall be checked in at any approved TRA checking station on the TRA website or by the TRA mobile application before leaving the state or being gifted to another and before the end of the calendar day. Evidence of the big game animal species and sex must be available for inspection by TRA personnel until the animal is checked in. After check-in, documentation on approved TRA forms or TRA mobile application shall be available for inspection by TRA personnel until time of final processing. This documentation of a confirmed check-in shall accompany any big game animals taken to the taxidermist or meat processor. So basically the major additions were the section adding before the animal leaving the state or being gifted to another. We've included some other language that was in our big game proclamation dealing with black bears. It says all harvested bears must be checked out at any official checking station, excluding internet and mobile applications. So we're wanting them to go to a physical checking station. Bears may be whole or field dressed, but must weigh 75 pounds or greater when checked in. The section making the reproductive organs remain attached until it's checked in so that the sex can be determined to the animal. And then to address the elk in this section, elk shall be checked in as instructed in the hunter's informational packet. Yes, sir.
I have a question. What, previous to the mobile application, check-in big game, was there a end of calendar day requirement?
Yes, sir, there was.
The old tagging system?
Yes, sir, there was. We have varied that over the years. There was a period of time before we added the internet where we went to a 36-hour check-in. That was when we only had physical check stations and persons were having difficulty finding an open check station, so we went to 36 hours at that time. The following year, we added the internet checking capability, which largely addressed some of the difficulties they were having, and we went to the end of the calendar day.
That's the reason I asked, because you've got people that do not have iPhones and internet access that may kill a deer or turkey, you know, late afternoon or at night, they get home, there's no check station open, I mean, what are they gonna do?
We're going to use discretion in dealing with them, but rather than extending where people tend to forget and put it off and never do it, we feel like the end of the calendar day is appropriate, mirrors what a lot of other states have as well. The last is just a clarification. It's not really a result of a rule change. We had this in effect last year, had a question asked about the archery season, and discovered that this was basically in effect last year. We just not publicized it. What it says is during the archery deer bear seasons, a properly licensed big game hunter may use air guns, 25 caliber or smaller, to hunt small game while archery hunting for deer bear. During the muzzleloader and gun deer bear season, a legal deer bear hunter may use rimfire or air guns, 25 caliber or smaller, to hunt small game. This allows them, if they so wish, to take a rimfire rifle or air gun to their tree stand while they're hunting during the muzzleloader and gun deer season. You take it. The reason it cannot be allowed during the archery season is there is a state statute prohibiting them from having a firearm while they're archery deer hunting. There's an exclusion, of course, for that for the handgun carry permit holders. They can have their carry weapon, but they cannot use it to hunt anything at all. So this basically was the status for last year. This just clears it up for them. And that concludes our recommendation. I'd be happy to answer any questions concerning manner, means, or whatever might help you with.
Any questions? Questions from the audience?